with Rule 49E(9) of the Rules of Procedure, I will not put any question on the motion. Members' Bill. This Council resumes the second reading debate on the Sailors' Home Admissions to Seamen Incorporation Amendment Bill 2018. Does any member wish to speak? Ms. Tanya Chen. Thank you, President. I didn't really dare to speak on this. If I remember correctly, Mr. Wong Kwok Kin was a sailor once, but this bill may sound simple. It's called the Sailors' Home Admissions to Seamen Incorporation Amendment Bill 2018. However, I'd like to take this opportunity to explore the following. I'd like to comment on the background of the bill and to take stock of the maritime industry in Hong Kong now. We have representatives present. I have done some research before I have decided to stand up to speak out this. Now, the Sailors' Home, you might have heard of it. We may know this better because it's in Tsim Sha Tsui, is recently closed. A new clubhouse plus a 30-story hotel will be built on top of it, so it will only be open in 2022. You may think that there are no facilities for seafarers, but this is not the case. Well, at Kwai Chung Container Terminal, we have a clubhouse there. There is a sailor's home there. And I don't know how well you know this. Maybe, well, this is the Sailors Club and the Sailors Home. In fact, we are going to make amendments to the bill which are dated already. First, we have to change the name. Instead of seamen, we will call them seafarers to be in line with international requirements. Now, in 2006, there is the Maritime Labor Convention.
We know that under the United Nations, there is this organization, and as I said, there is the Maritime Labor Convention. It's called the International Labor Organization, ILO. This convention was promulgated in 2006, but it's not been fully implemented in Hong Kong. And the Hong Kong government has tried to a certain extent take care of this group of seafarers. And this club, or the Sailors' Home, is the only one in Hong Kong providing welfare services to all international and local seafarers to fulfill Hong Kong's international obligation for the provision of port welfare services. Of course, the convention covers wide scope. Say, for example, the work and living conditions of the seafarers. President, you may know that the number of seafarers in Hong Kong has dropped drastically over the years. And Hong Kong used to be a place which supplied a lot of seafarers, especially before the 80s. A lot of young people were willing to join the trade, but the trade is declining, and that because the wages have got higher. And at the same time, we see that especially for junior seafarers, they do not earn a good salary. So in preparing for this bill, I have read a lot of reference materials. And there are also female seafarers, but they are very few in number. And according to the Sailors' Home bill, Well, the name will be changed to seafarers from seamen. That is in keeping with the international standards. And also there is no gender inclination in that term. So seafarers will replace seamen. And also there will be the change in the composition and procedures of the committee. The government and the relevant organizations in recent years have arranged for trade union representatives to sit on the committee, hopefully to gather their views. And then we used to have the Shin Kong Wui Church of England replaced by Hong Kong Shin Kong Wui, and there were terms used in the colonial days which would be amended this time. Now, Hong Kong is an international shipping center. I wonder whether you know about this. Hong Kong is an international shipping center. And I think we've been doing well. Now, we used to rank the third. Now it's the fourth. The shipping takes up 90% of the transport output in Hong Kong. Of course, we mainly rely on ships instead of airplane and road transport. And shipping industry ranks in Hong Kong ranks the fourth worldwide. And how do we assess it? We would be looking at the measurement of tonnage of ships to come up with that figure. In 2013, up to the 1st of February, there were 2,200 ships. We ranked third. And in April 2017, we have over 25,000, and we've got over 1 million tons, and we ranked fourth. And we had Panama, Liberia, and Marshall Islands in front of us, before us. So where does Hong Kong's competitiveness lie? Of course, it lies mainly with our legal protection. So this sailors' home is very important to the seafarers who have worked very hard. It's not just about the catering service being provided there. According to the convention, the sailors' home does not provide only catering service. It should be retrofitted with sports facilities and gymnastic facilities, which are up to a certain standard. Accommodation should also be provided. These are all requirements under the Maritime Labour Convention. Well, the convention is in English, so I won't dwell on this. Now, the convention sets out the welfare facilities and the relevant requirements. It's in Article 4.4. It says here categorically, once the seafarers get on land, what are the facilities to be provided to them? Of course, it includes a sailor's home, but well, it can be operated in other forms other than a home, and there are shore-based welfare facilities. And appropriate facilities should be offered, and appropriate services should be provided. There should be cultural, recreational activities to be organized, and they can have access to information in this sailor's home. And there is also one important principle which is very much cherished in Hong Kong. So irrespective of your gender, age, color, skin, race, or even your nationality, religious beliefs, political beliefs, or your social inclinations, or the kind of the flag of the country hoisted in your ships and the country you represent. So irrespective of all these, the facilities should be provided equally to all, but including accommodation and recreational facilities. So all these should be provided irrespective of the aspects of the seafarers that I mentioned. So this can help Hong Kong maintaining its status in an international shipping center. I think it's an important mission for us as well. And it is should be our beliefs and our goals as well. Now, the name of the homes will be changed. It might look simple on the surface, but we can take this opportunity to take stock of the development of the industry over the years. When I studied into this matter, my colleague has retrieved this very important or meaningful English article for my reference, and it was written by a lecturer of Poly University. It is about Hong Kong's seafarers' development. And it says that the container terminal in Hong Kong is important to our logistics industries, and it provides 85,000 jobs in Hong Kong. And then the number of seafarers in recent years has declined drastically for various reasons. And not many young people are willing to join this very specialized sector. As I said, the remuneration for seafarers is low, but it used to be quite good. But later on, the pay has dropped, and because of competition, many ship owners or ship companies have started recruiting seafarers from places in the vicinity of Hong Kong. So there has been a substantial, drastic change in Hong Kong. You have to be registered before you become a seafarer. It used to be not like that. But later on, in keeping with international requirements, registration is required. But then there have been new two developments in that registration process. In the 90s, did you get registered? You had to take an exam, and the requirement suddenly has been escalated for registration to be a seafarer. And then later on, there is also a change. In the law, you had to get re-registered. Originally, we followed the British laws to get registered, and before 1997, the reunification, the system has changed, and another piece of law was prepared, which took effect on the 1st of September 1997. So the seafarer had to re-register themselves. And then the requirements were also stringent. Within a period of 3 years, you had to work on board a ship for 18 months. You should not be onshore there. And so for those aged seafarers, they did not want to re-register. So in 1996, registered seafarers totaled 64,000. And when it comes to 1997, there were only 3,000 or so. So the drop has been very drastic. And 1997, we got 3,000 or so. And every year, there has been an increase of a few hundred. And in 2015, there were 6,000 seafarers. And that's it. And there was a generation gap among the seafarers, and you might be on board an ocean-going vessel or a river trade vessel, and then for those on the OGVs, the seafarers were relatively old. And in the past few years, the government tried to establish funds and committees to encourage young people to join the trade. And well, even through, say, sailors' home and other sailors' clubs. But even with these establishments, the government hasn't been providing enough support to seafarers. So after the amendment, the government should implement the Maritime Labour Convention 2006 in full. Do not do it in drips and drabs. I hope that the government can show genuine respect to the seafarers who have worked very hard for Hong Kong.
Mr. Ray Chen. Thank you, President. President, I speak in support of the Sailors' Homes and Missions to Seamen Incorporation Ordinance Amendment Bill moved by Mr. Frankie Yik. There are two observations that I'd like to share with members, and I hope that my mysteries can be resolved by the erudite members. If you look at the long title, Seamen is going to be changed to seafarers. The People's Republic of China has resumed the exercise of sovereignty in Hong Kong for 21 years. Why is it that it has taken until today for this to be moved? First, seamen changed to seafarers. I support this amendment because women, not just men, can become sailors. Mr. Frankie Yik said that this is to bring it in line with the Maritime Labour Convention. The gender-neutral term would be used, and therefore seafarers would be substituted for seamen. Actually, in 2006, seafarers have begun to appear. From 2006, all women involved in this line of business are still called seamen. Let's say you move this in 2017 for 10-12 years. Has the member representing the transport sector noticed that? Has he or she moved any amendments, or has he or she wanted to do it but couldn't because the government found it too minor of a change? The other thing is this is decolonization. Hong Kong used to be a British colony, and under this Sailors' Home and Missions to Seamen Incorporation Bill or Amendment Bill, there are a lot of terms that have colonial flavor, like Sing Kong Hui is going to be replacing Church of England. In 1998, Sing Kong Hui has changed its term, or Anglican Church has changed its name to Hong Kong Sing Kong Hui. Maybe this is part of decolonization. Why is that it hasn't? It isn't until today that Church of England is changed to Hong Kong Sing Kong Hui. Has anybody paid any attention to these terms before? I think this should have been done by the Provisional Electrical. Decolonization should have been done. All the flags, albums, Royal Hong Kong Police Force must be changed. It has been changed overnight. The government house has been changed to has been changed. Some are overreacting to this. The insignia on the post box should be changed. Some said that the coins are bearing the portrait of the Queen should be recalled. There are so many things that have colonial flavor, like Governing Council, Your Majesty. All these terms still remain in the statute book for 20 years. Now instead of saying Her Majesty or Governing Council, this will be changed to Seamen Council, and so on. If you read through the bill, there are lots of changes that have to do with decolonization or localization. Why is it that it takes until today that this is done? 20 years ago, this should have been done. Is terribly difficult. I've read some of the ordinances. It would be, the government wouldn't really care about some of the conjunctions in the ordinances. There was a piece that was ruled to be unconstitutional, but the government doesn't want to change. And there was a miscellaneous amendment bill, and the government took that opportunity to bring in all the changes. I didn't follow this Sailors' Home and Missions, the Seamen Incorporation Amendment Bill, but why? It begs the question, why does it take so long for anybody to raise their hands to amend it? It wouldn't take long for the amendment to take place. For those who are in the functional constituencies, many people feel that the FC are good. Please go through the statute book and see how many Your Majesty there are. Are you putting the cart before the horse if you care about the post boxes and not so much about these colonial terms? You're trying to change the textbooks, and you're not changing these important statutes. Please go through the private members' bills. Please go through all the outdated ordinances. This is our fundamental duty. I think the government has been stalling the matter. The government might say that this is insignificant. It doesn't make any difference to the court judgment. I think we have to point out the problems with the government. Thank you.
Does any member wish to speak? If not, I now call upon the Honourable Frankie Yik to reply. Then the debate will come to a close. The Honourable Frankie Yik. President, I am very grateful to Ms. Tanya Chen for filling in the background of the bill, and I thank you for the concern for the seafarers in Hong Kong, including the number of seafarers we have in the community. However, the sailors' home here do not just serve seafarers in Hong Kong, but to everyone from all over the world. We have over 380 vessels calling at Hong Kong, and Hong Kong is a very popular place for switching seafarers because we are an air hub. So seafarers come to Hong Kong, and they need to stay here for a short while, and they need various services, and that is what the Sailors' Home intends to do. We are fulfilling our duty as a member of the International Maritime Organization. Mr. Chen Chi-chun said that the amendments should have come 2 decades ago. How come we have waited until today? In fact, there are many pieces of legislation in Hong Kong where people would not tend to notice recently. And then, if members remember, last term, this council approved funding for the Department of Justice and also the Transport and Housing Bureau to review legislation to catch up with international legislation, and we are still carrying out the exercise. Mr. Chen Chi-chun asked how come we hadn't done it earlier. I guess it's because the Incorporation wanted to redevelop its over 50-year-old sailors' home in Tsim Sha Tsui in 2012. And so they had to review the relevant ordinance to see what is allowed and what's not. And then it was found that many of the provisions in the ordinance were already outdated. And then towards the end of the last term, the Incorporation came to me, and as well as the Transport and Health Bureau, asking me to help to introduce an amendment bill to the ordinance so that it could reflect the status quo of the Incorporation. So I became the lead member of the bill. The bill is relatively simple. Since its first reading, no members have asked to set up a bills committee to review or to scrutinize the amendments. Well, as members said, we've already lagged behind international development. So I hope with members' support, we can pass the bill and implement the provisions ASAP. Thank you. I now put a question to you that the Sailors' Home and Missions to Seamen Incorporation Amendment Bill 2018 be read the second time. Mr. Ray Chen claims a division. The division bell will ring for 5 minutes.
開始表。
Please proceed to vote. Please check your votes. If there are no queries, the voting shall now stop. The results will be displayed. FC members 27 present, 26 for, and GC members 27 present, 27 against. I think the question is agreed by majority, respectively, of each of the two groups of members present. I declare the motion passed. Sailors' Home and Missions to Seamen Incorporation Amendment Bill 2018. Council now becomes Committee of the Whole Council.